life short. We know the lady. Well, anyway, I'll go over this later. There we go. All right, guys, welcome to Wealth Wednesday. Jody Humphrey here with my partner, Kimberly Odie. Excited to have all of you here. This is we got this thing live stream, so we're ready to rumble, and appreciate her diligence on that. Every week, got a great program lined up today. We're going to obviously hear from the great Tim O'Rourke as we start out, and there's a lot of great things going on and some, as you know, craziness in the world. But as he goes through, he'll visit with you. Those of you that are here in Atlanta, there is training at the office tonight for nationwide. So it'd probably be something you want to come by, especially for their lawn care solutions. They're really cutting edge on that. So get there if you can. I don't know if that's being Zoomed or not. We'll get the word back out to you if it is. But anyway, that's going on. And then also we're going to today talk about this being Women's Empowerment Month, which we're going to visit about, and also some strategies for that. Very excited about that. Then we're also going to get into discussion on IUL versus Roth IRAs, especially for some of the younger crowd. And then we're going to get into the specifics on our marketing materials as it is to financial literacy. So let's get rumbling. Kimberly, thank you for all that you do. Tim, if you want to go ahead and take a few minutes, we appreciate you.
Yeah, we'll do. Hey, Jody. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Morning, good afternoon, everybody. Great to be here. Wow. Have we seen a lot going on here over the weekend and over the last 4 or 5 days? A lot of noise in the markets right now. Obviously, this is all artificial to what's going on in the investment industry. But this is a great backdrop, just so you know, of why we protect people. This is why, the fundamental products of what we help people with are so important, because this noise is all artificial stuff right now. This really has no long-term bearing on anything. In fact, when you look through history, I was doing some research. When you look through history, you'll find that a lot of this kind of noise, a lot of this doesn't have any long-term implications. In fact, one of the wars, the Gaza war that was back in the Gaza Strip back in 2023, this actually happened in October 2023. The market actually was up 32% that year during this crisis. And I remember this back in 1973. The Arabs basically had an oil embargo where oil doubled. Now, oil obviously has some huge implications on the markets, on distribution, on products and services. So that has I think, inflationary impacts and a lot of other things. So back in 1973, the markets were down 34% during that crisis. So you can see the different impact. This particular, I still call it a crisis. This situation where the U.S. and Israel are attacking a country like this, and especially an oil-producing country, when you've seen oil prices, you just go to the gas station here in Atlanta, and I noticed I think it was 329 the other day from around 259. So you're going to see the cause and effect of this kind of thing, where oil prices shot up, and now they're starting to calm down already pretty quickly, just because of some of the action taken by the administration of protecting the ships going through the Strait of Hormuz, where I think it's 17% of all the oil flow through these tankers are going through that bottleneck, kind of area there, coming from the Gulf there. And so, these kind of things have a short-term effect right now. Hopefully this will all settle down. My comments yesterday on Tim Talks is interesting, since I lived in Saudi Arabia for about 3.5 years. I don't think this is going to be a fast or a quick kind of resolution to that part of the world, just because you got the Houthis, you've got Hezbollah. You've got, conflicts over there have been going on for thousands of years. There's a religious kind of implications. It's like the Muslim religion has two primary sects, the Sunnis and the Shiites. And then when you look in the greater scope, they each have different sects within themselves. But overall, there's 73 different kind of breakdowns of SECTS sects. I didn't want to confuse you all and say sex, it's sex. But there's there's 73 different sects of religions within a religion. And so, you've got the Shiites, which are in the country over there in Iran, and then you've got the Sunnis, which represent about 80% of all the Muslims in the rest of that region. And when you have this kind of a conflict, you've got 47 years of this oppressive kind of a governing country. And we all know that they're pretty bad people. They've been killing their own. And whatever side of political side we look at from this, which I'm not going to address, but we're going in there and we're trying to take out their ability to build nuclear weapons and harm people. I think the lesson here I've learned from living and being in that part of the country there is that it's hard to really take out that kind of a power, and that's really been entrenched in that part of the world. It's not going to be a quickly resolved issue, in my opinion. So this is something that could go on for weeks and months, and then you've got these different parties over there, like the Houthis and Hezbollah, that are going to constantly be a terrorist kind of organization that are going to crop up. And so this is something that's going to linger on for a while, I think. But I think the way it's being handled as best as possible from our perspective as investment people and protecting our clients. I think we're doing, the best that we can right now. So oil prices are elevated artificially, and I'm seeing them calm down today, which I think will continue right now. WTI is coming down. Brent is coming down. I think we're going to see that continue. Liquid natural gas, LNG, is coming down. That's really come down a lot. That's more affected by the cold weather than anything. I saw some news come out about ADP reported that more jobs were created in February than expected. The markets have been surprisingly more resilient than I expected during this crisis. So we're seeing, turnaround today in the markets. Gold has actually popped back up. It took a pretty big hit because of the strength of the dollar here recently. But right now, the Dow's up 300 points. S&P's up around almost 60. NASDAQ's popped back up. So I think the market's reacting very positively right now. So, still overall right now we're heading sideways, I would call it, from a financial perspective. But for this year, it's really hard to get any direction for the market. But I'm sensing that we're going to see probably a sideways market right now. There's no real direction to what's going on here, and I see that kind of continuing for the remainder of this year, and see how this war thing plays out. And then we're in election year, mid-year elections as well. So this is going to be an interesting year to watch with all this noise in the markets and see how it plays out. So that's kind of my thoughts for the day. This is something I'll comment a little bit more on today in Tim Talks as things develop too. But anyway, that's my thoughts for the day. Hope that helps everybody. Back to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And guys, listen, you may wonder, just so you'll know the method to our madness, I think this gives us a competitive advantage. I call this call the cutting edge. I call this the competitive advantage because you've got to be able to talk with some kind of an authoritative feel and sound coherent in today's world. You just need to know what's going on. And I love being able to be here, hear Tim's thoughts. He's right. He studies as much as anybody you're going to want to know. He has the experience. He's tied in. He's very close with Paul Dietrich and many others. So he's able to give us that power. So thank you so much, Tim. All right, guys, let's get into the program today. We first of all want to focus on Women's Empowerment Month. It's Women in Business Month. It's Women's History Month, if you will. I want to show you just a couple of things that we have prepared for that. The company has a great brochure or a great piece, if you will, on that. I think it's fantastic. Let me pull this up real quick. Here you go. It's a great picture. These are the women leaders in the company of HGI. Now, what's amazing about this is that all of these are in the Diamond Club. And that's our premier leadership team. These are $500,000 and above type leaders who build great teams. So you have several people that are on this call. You have obviously on the first row there, you got my wife on the bottom right, Chrisabeth. Then you'll on that second row. Who all do we have on that second row? You got Kimberly on the far right. So there she is within this call. And then on the next row, who do we have? You've got Lorena, which is Mauricio's wife right there in the middle. And then you've got two over from her. You got Andrea Wilson Douglas, who's just a superstar. Beside her, you got Tatiana Preciado. And then along the back row, going from left to right, I know you got Stephanie and Brizzi. They're in the Pinto sisters. They're in the middle. And I think we have am I missing anybody? I don't think so. But that's the ones that are represented on this call. And if I happen to have missed somebody, I apologize. But we're also doing this brochure or this piece for our team, this team. So if you're a leader, and I've already texted most of you, you have if you have a picture of one of the female leaders on our team that are MD and above, send that because we're making this picture for this and we need to get that out in the next few days to use it for this month. So in the spirit of this, we're going to also be focusing on this as a theme. You need to be having events. All of you need to be having, women's empowerment, financial literacy for women, financial education for women. They're, as you know, all the numbers that go with that, they always have been great influential in the market, but now more than ever. And there's a great presentation that Matt Salvatore sent us along those lines. It is just fantastic. And it can be what you use. Corbridge sent that to us. You can go into all of you should have received it in your email. And if you don't have it, reach out to us. We will get that for you. We're going to have events in Atlanta. We're going to have an event. I think it's the 24th of this month on whatever that Tuesday is, and it will have multiple themes, but it will be heavily, themed on this event. We're going to also have a team call. We're putting together when that's going to be. To use this as an overview to get a big Zoom across the country to get everybody on. So we're excited about that. It gives you a great theme. Okay. Also, what I want to talk about for a few minutes when it comes to this is the program for you to understand our marketplaces. Okay, we'll talk strategy for a few minutes, and we'll have Kimberly help me and chime in with me on this. But what happens is, if you study the market right now, financial literacy has been something that we were on the cutting edge of. I actually think we're on the very forefront of that. But now that theme has become very dominant. It's very vogue. Mr. Beast, who, as many of you know, is a social media dominating force, probably the number one dominating force, is making a move to get heavy into the financial literacy world. You have Grant Cardone and others. Tony Robbins did this a few years ago. They're all trying to monetize their businesses by being in the financial world, into the financial literacy and financial education space. So that's our space, guys. We can dominate it. We still have the boots on the ground. We still have distribution. But we got to really understand that that sells. That is a very vogue piece right now. So I want to make sure that you understand where you can go and know where our tools are when it comes to that. So, hopefully all of you are familiar for going right in, and I'm going to walk you through it. You can go into your back offices and you go, this is in Aristotle. So once you go inside of Aristotle, you go here to marketing or to help and resources. I'm here with a help and resources piece under that tab. If you go down to our marketing materials and click right there, we have amazing pieces. Okay. Several of them are directly related to financial literacy. For example, how to win the money game. It is a tremendous piece right here. It is a fantastic, straightforward piece on how money works. If you're not using this or how to win the money game, it's a tremendous piece. It's a great piece for you to go drop off and have people get excited about what we do. It's very straightforward. It's also a great piece that we use after meetings to give to people. That is a fantastic piece. So go use that. Okay. Also through here there's financial solutions for the 21st century, and I know it looks similar. It's a different brochure. Go look at that. There are also, if you go through here, other tools on how money works, core financial concepts. This is tremendous piece. You go study this piece. Go through here, all the pieces. Those are the only ones there for that. So but go backwards here. Core financial concepts, financial solutions for the 21st century, and how to win the money game. Also, just by way of reference, when people leave your BOPs, you need to be controlling that narrative. You understand when somebody walks out of the BOP, that their mind's going to be, I got to look up something, I got to go learn more, and you got to control that narrative. Because if you do that, they're going to go down all kinds of rabbit holes, and you can't control the internet. But if you send them this information, specifically right here, this QR code, this decision kit, it gets their mind straight. It gets them how to win the money game and wealth resources. So those are great pieces that we have now. Along those lines also, and I'm really excited about this, and this is a tool that I think is one of our secret weapons. If you go here under your tools and resources, you go down here to ebooks and you click on ebooks, and right here along the bottom, this is an incredible piece. Literally, I've watched Aki's team use this for years. I remember in our office, we had Raheem come over and teach this. You got the Conquer Your Financial Future book. It is fantastic. You can have your team literally on your weekly meetings. You should have your team read that book, then go. And this is more like a tutorial. Like it literally. By the way, if all of you are brand new and you're here, and you're like, I hear these things that Mauricio says. I hear the things that Tim says. Kimberly's just so smart. I really don't understand all this. Go read this little book. It goes through very simple, and it helps you understand how money works. It'll go through, give you the financial basis. It'll help you in very simple terms understand compound interest. It'll help you understand in very simple terms, how the market how losses and gains affect the market. And I'm talking, you can sit down in one or two settings and read this book, and it helps you understand what the buckets are. And if you don't know what that means, that you'll hear that over and over. So all the things you want are right here in this book. So just so we're clear on this particular piece here, if you go look at it, it's the Conquer Your Financial Future book here. Let me see, get back to the beginning of it here. There you go. There's that piece. And along with this book, it has a companion piece that goes with it that is a workbook off of it. That once somebody reads this, they can come in your office and go through, and it's questions that come from every one of those chapters. Great things to use to help your team learn. And these are all financial literacy things, and I mean they're fantastic. And then once they go through here, and you want to make sure that they know what they're doing, right here at the bottom, there's the answer key that goes with that book. So, guys, that gives you some ammunition to look very impressive, to go with the technology package that we have, to go with this, what people are looking for. They need to know on your social media, they need to know from you talking to them that, hey, if they need an opportunity, this is the place for them to be. If they need a financial education, if they want financial literacy, if they want to be taught the secrets of the money game, they need to come to you. So, two things they need to be knowing as you go out and go forward. So, I think that's pretty cool. We got those tools. Any questions on the tools that we have? I think things are pretty straightforward. Okay. Now
I
then,
don't have any questions on the tools, but I just want to
yeah,
make a couple of comments on them.
sure.
On those
Mhm.
brochures, you guys can literally download them, you can email them, you can text them. So that's something you can get in people's hands very, very quickly without having to print them, without having to do any of that. And also, as far as the workbook, you could easily create a seminar. We see this all the time. I signed up for two this week that I might actually own. I'm just curious their marketing. But all it is taking people through basic financial education. How do I make a budget? How do I do this? What does this mean? And giving that basic education. We could easily create that and pull it in through some of Mauricio's tools as a funnel to attract people so we can teach them and the world is unlimited. So I want you guys to think about that when you see all of this. Your possibilities are endless. You can go to some employers that you know and sit down and teach a how money works class. You can have your team do it every Wednesday night for an hour, do a financial basics class. Like all of that is at your fingertips, and it's possible because you've got those tools right there.
Absolutely. So, we have everything, whether you're using, what we would call low tech, which would be, fingers and materials. We want to hit on all sides, right? You want to hit on the technology and have them read it. And we got wonderful materials. So go use that attack. Hey, and by the way, pick one that you like and wear it out. We're an action group. I taught this last night. Don't every week people come in and they'll hear me go over something, and I'll use like the new example we're using about a car dealership on how we get paid, and people are like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, but don't have it be the warm fuzzies for 2 minutes and then don't go tell somebody about it. Or you get on here and you hear Kimberly and you're like, oh my gosh, she's unbelievable. Yeah, you know what? The reason we do this call is for you to go hear those phrases and that power and go wear it out. If you hear something she says that you like, go tell everybody about it. Or yesterday we were in a meeting and Matt Salvatore, I used him as a recruiting tool, and he was in this meeting, and he explained the power of insurance to these new guys that we had, and it was so good. James was sitting beside him recording it. I was listening to him going, "This is the greatest thing I've ever heard." But you know what? It does us no good if you get all fired up and hear an incredible phrase, and then we don't go tell everybody. Let's be action oriented. When you hear this, you should go in here and go, okay, I like these. I like that workbook. I will show everybody. Go post that workbook. There you go. Every one of you should post right now that we have that Conquer Your Financial Future book and get everybody to say, go find out how to go use this. That's the power of these tools. All right. Now then, let's move to the rest of the program. Today, we're going to talk about the power of demographic inevitability and what that means. Okay. Now we're also going to thread in some product training into this, but I'm very excited about this conversation. There's multiple markets, but we talk about the 5 markets, right? There's 100 and I think Mauricio told us there's $170 trillion according to the numbers he can, verify. This moving from one generation to the next. Now, when you start throwing the billions and trillions, you can't process that, guys. But understand $170 trillion, that's how much money is going to move in the next 10 to 15 years from one generation to the next. Now, I don't want to blow through this. I wish somehow alarms would go off because I have a friend who is with WFG, and he has built his whole empire off of that phrase that when money moves, money's made. And all he teaches people is what he calls the wealth wave and the great wealth transfer. And that's all he recruits with. So this story I'm telling you right now, Go tell it as many times as you can. That should be whatever you hear on the Wednesday call. Go tell it that week as many times as you possibly can. Find your lane, find your weapon that works, and wear it out. Okay. So, what I'm telling you is this: we're in the middle of the greatest wealth transference in history. That's exciting to me. Imagine we used to have a slide in the bottom. It was this giant wall of it was like a giant wave crashing to the shore, and in it it had money. It had dollar bills in it, and it was like when money moves, money's made. And that's what I want you to see. Now, if you break it down into the five markets, we're going to talk a little bit about what each one of these markets, what is their lowest hanging fruit? What are their obvious needs? What are things that you know that you got to, these are, imagine that these are five different types of fish, and you got to know what lure to attract those different fish. You got to know where they are, how to attract them. They all have different needs, habits, they're different parts of their life. So let's talk first of all about the ones on the front end, and that's the Gen Z and that's the millennials. Okay. Now these are large groups. The baby boomer group was massive and it changed the world because it was the first large group. Now you see some other numbers here with the Gen X or Gen Z 68 million, millennials 82 million. But listen, one other thing behind them, the groups behind them, like the group before the Gen Z, the numbers dramatically drop. There's a big population drop off behind that, which is a little interesting. So let's get in and talk about Gen Z first and millennials. Let's try to talk about those two. From a product perspective, when you're talking to them, now you've got two buttons. One is what button do you press to get them interested in the business? That's a whole nother set of buttons. We train on those on Tuesdays. And I think obviously those are, hey, being in control, running your own business, all that kind of stuff. But let's talk for a second about the other button, which is what are the products that they are most interested in? Now, Kimberly, you want to take the lead on the conversation, but I know that the main things that they're looking for is a chance to put money away so that they don't fall into the trap of those that are before them. And also, they're interested in making money, getting high returns, that's sexy to them, and paying little to no taxes if possible. That's what they're all about. Any thoughts on that, Kimberly?
Yeah, absolutely. They are looking to invest typically monthly money. They don't have lump sums yet, right? They're just out of school, just out of college, trying to figure out life, getting started. So they're accumulating. Probably don't have any old 401ks or inheritances, things like that. They're possibilities, but not probabilities. So what can you do with monthly money? We're looking, especially I think also that age group probably doesn't think that they need life insurance, right? As far from a term perspective, I think that's a conversation we can have. I think it's something we can teach them how valuable that is. But when you're talking about what they're looking for, it's like Jody said, sexy money, sexy concepts. Like, I don't want to pay taxes. I want to make as much money as possible. I want to retire by the time I'm 45. How do I make all of that happen? And so in that bucket, it's really where can monthly money go? You've just got basic savings, you've got managed accounts, you've got Roth IRAs, and you've got IULs, and that's typically what the target market is looking at. And depending on how much they can afford to set aside, depends on obviously which product is best for them. You want to talk more about any of those, Jody, or?
You do also on that. I think that I was thinking about a couple more things when it comes to this particular group. They are also limited in experience, meaning in the market. So they're going off the information of where they're at. Okay, and for example, the facts of they're looking at taxes as they are now. You know what I mean? And so let's talk a little bit, if you want to, for a second about the specifics. The one conversation that we know that's being had a lot, and that is a Roth IRA as comparison to an IUL, or just a what we would call as a non-protected account, a naked account, if you will, just putting money away into whether it's an indexed account, whether it's in the market or whatever the case may be. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think the biggest question you're going to have at this age group when they're putting away monthly money, especially if they're not out perform or maxing out a Roth, doing more than what's going into a Roth, is why should I do an IUL instead of a Roth? And there are multiple reasons for that. If they think they're going to be in the same tax bracket for the rest of their life, maybe we could have that conversation. But the reality is if they're starting this, in their early 20s, they're going to make more money. This is something they're going to set it and forget it, and they're going to have tons of other investment choices throughout their life. As they make more money, a lot of times a Roth IRA is not an option, right? They need to put more in than $7,000 a year. They make too much, so they can't invest into a Roth right now. But also the caps and the handcuffs, if you will, on those accounts. You can't access that money before 59 and a half without paying a penalty on your growth. And a lot of times, sometimes we need to access money before 59 and a half. If you're 22, setting something away for the next, 40 something years is a long time, right? So I think accessibility on an IUL. I also think the caps that are larger than inside of what a Roth IRA is going to do. Remember the IUL with Corebridge, specifically the one that was created for us, the Imperial IUL. There are 5 different times throughout that policy's existence that someone can increase their death benefit without evidence of insurability. So as all of you guys know, the death benefit determines how much money we can put in, right? And if our death benefit's too small, then we can't put any more in. We're capped out. But if our death benefit's too big, our money isn't growing. So I think that's a balancing act that we get into when we're dealing with younger clients is, okay, I can do $400 a month now, but next year I'm going to do 600, the next year I'm going to do 1,000. Well, if I build an IUL that's going to hold $1,000 a month in 3 years and it doesn't actually happen, now I'm underfunding it and it's underperforming. So with that proprietary product that we have, we're able to build it for where they are now. But we also have those moments where we can increase the death benefit that's already built in without evidence of insurability inside that same IUL, without having to create another one. And we say, hey, we want more, which allows us, if there's a death benefit, again, allows us to put more money in. So it kind of grows with them, right? With their careers and all of that. Obviously, you have, first and foremost, you have life insurance and living benefits. If you're talking to a young person, a lot of times they don't get that, but it's a perk. So who cares? You got it. One day you're going to wish you had it. Now you got it. And it's there forever because it's permanent. And then, I think the flexibility of an IUL versus a Roth, being able to grab those lump sums when needed, if needed, throughout the course of your life without specifying that has to wait till this particular period of time without a penalty. Also, the other things, you might potentially, on some years for sure, have the ability to make more money in a Roth than inside an IUL, right? Because the Roth is tied to the market. But you also have the volatility of the market. So in a Roth, you're going to ride the ride up and you're going to ride the ride down. In an IUL, we all know that every single year we lock in our gains. So if I made money this year, this is my gain. As my money goes up, this is my new floor. So I don't have the volatility that I have inside of a Roth IRA in my index universal life. And then finally, it's the distribution, because ultimately that's why we're saving any money, right? Is to distribute it when it's time. A distribution inside of a Roth is just like a 401k or any other account. If I have $1 million in my Roth IRA and I pull out 100,000, I'm not sure how. 900,000, right? If I have $1 million in my IUL and I pull out 100,000, it acts as if, because I've just borrowed that, I haven't distributed it. It acts as if I still have $1 million in my account. So my money is growing as if I had $1 million still in my account value instead of my Roth growing at 900,000. So I think all of those are bullet points. I know I kind of went through them quickly, but I think if you have the opportunity to speak to someone young and really talk through the differences and really explain to them the differences, and especially having that IUL that grows with them as they grow, I think all of those are huge points that should help you convert it.
And let's I want to hone in on that last part for a second. By the way, are there any questions about what she just went over? Okay. Now let's talk about this. Okay. the thought process of somebody putting money away should be a long-term proposition, right? I mean, if somebody puts money in a Roth IRA or somebody puts money in a 401k, which we're not talking about, or they put it in an IUL, they should have a long-term mentality. That's what it's there for. It is not a short-term play under any scenario. Okay. So she talked about along the way, and that's pretty clear. But I want to talk about when it comes time for the payout, when it comes time for you to get the money out of that policy, right? Now, this is like the secret sauce. It's the reason, there's a little presentation we show called Brother A, Brother B, and in it, it shows when you start taking money out. See, when you are climbing Mount Everest, there's two issues. One is climbing Mount Everest. That's in and of itself a daunting task, right? But as many people die coming down Mount Everest as they climbed it. But you never hear about that. And so what that means is there's the accumulation phase, which is getting money. And most every time on a sheet of paper, you would show more money inside of the what are you trying to say, Zach? I'm not quite sure. Anyway,
I
Zach's
think that was
chiming
me,
in on
and
something. Okay.
maybe I'm
Anyway,
coming in with Zach. I'm just responding. Sorry,
no, yeah, that's okay.
ignore me.
But sorry guys. But what we're saying is that there's the accumulation phase and there's the distribution phase. Okay. But also what happens is that whenever you're looking at this, most times, if you're looking at a ledger and it's an IUL versus a Roth IRA or a 401k in a lot of cases, you will have more money in the Roth IRA and also in the 401k on a sheet of paper. And that's accurate, okay? But what happens is that it's not what you earn, it's what you keep. This is the key to the whole thing. And then so what then happens is you go in to access that money. And just to clarify what she was saying is that not that she needs clarifying, but a little bit more on it, is that once you take money out of that account, in this case the Roth IRA, whatever rate of return that money's getting, let's assume that both accounts are getting 6 to 8%, which is about what we show on on things. That means the 6 to 8% is going on the amount that's left over. Like she said, you take out 100,000, that 900,000 grows. The next year you take out 100,000, 800,000 is growing. In the IUL, if you had the $1 million and you took it out, it's still the $1 million is still what's getting the rate of return. And that keeps it, that's where it makes up and ultimately surpasses. Because what happens is, what do you get? How much do you get out of it? That is the key. So we can do a deep dive into that more, but I also will tell you real quick on this, because I know we got a lot of people want to say different things on it. I'll get to you in a second, James. The other piece is this. We're kind of splitting hairs, because the key is to start saving something. The biggest problem is people don't have the habit of paying themselves first. The habit is that they aren't doing anything. And within one of our brochures, now I'm flying without a net on this one, so just kind of bear with me. Hopefully I can find right what I'm looking for here on this real quick. Hang on. I think I can. I can nibble enough to get around this. You go back to what we were just talking about in the back office. If you go to one of the brochures that we were talking about a minute ago, let's go back here on the marketing tools. One of our pieces, and I think it's this one, so I'm hoping I am able to find this quickly here. If you go through here to a winning the money game here, and you go down to this example, and I think it's hoping it's in this one. I think it is. Here we go. I'm proud of myself here. Okay. If you go here, this piece says it all. Okay. It's why they need to get started. First of all, they do need to get started, right? Start saving money. But this is an example of two different people. Let's say it's a brother and a sister. They're both 25, and both of them start putting money away. Or they hear about this. They hear this presentation and they're like, oh, wow, this is awesome. But the person on the left, usually the girl, the sister, will be the one to go get started, right? So let's just say that she saves $300 a month. And she does that for the time she's 25 to 31, that's 6 years. So that means she put away $25,200. But then she gets distracted and doesn't put any more money away. Well, that money, based on this account at 8%, will ultimately grow down to what, 128,000. Let's say the person's brother, though, gets excited and they don't save any money for 7 years because they're out having fun, chasing girls, buying cars, doing whatever, having a good time. And they're like, dadgummit, my sister's kicking my butt. I need to start saving money. And that person starts saving $300 a month from the time they're 31 to the time they're 48. Now that person's put in 61,000, 3 times as much money. But look, they end up having almost the same money. I love this example. It's got 131,000 in that accumulation, and that shows you that if you wait, you cannot overcome those 7 years that you were behind. And that's really what people need to understand is they need to get started now. And then once they do get in, as you're understanding, you got to know that this is one of the things I love about what we do is that you have to go in and to study and know what you're looking for, because when you get in, people are making decisions on partial information, and they're making the best decisions they can make. And I can promise you, without a full explanation, a person would think, hey, I don't need the life insurance part of that. But what you're doing is you're buying that wrapper of where there's never taxes on the growth of that money. And it's an unlimited amount that you're setting up an account to where you're able to put an unlimited amount of money away. And there's nothing else that you can do that. And most importantly, when you pull money out of it, your principal stays the same. And it continues to, the miracle of compound interest offsets what you thought was the other advantage. So that's as simple as we can put it. I didn't know if Zach, if you wanted to add anything from that, but I know you had chimed in a little bit on some things there. And I listen, we're not giving you tax advice. If you are a client, go to your CPA to get answers. We got to always give you that, because that's not, we're teaching concepts. That's what we're about. Okay. And James, I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with everything you guys are laying out. And in my own real life testimony and example, I started saving money at 28 years old when I got out of corporate. I left Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I went to my brother Brian, who's an Edward Jones advisor in St. Louis, Missouri, the corporate backyard of Edward Jones. I had a big 401k that I needed to roll over. So who do I go to? I go to my brother. He knows money, right? That's his business. So he rolls it into a IRA. Well, then next thing I know, he's now managing my whole portfolio. He's not just setting me up with an IRA. He's taking all my additional monies, because he convinced me to move all my paychecks and my checking and savings account into a Bank of New York account through Edward Jones, so that he knows how much money's coming in. He can dictate and control the movement of that money. He's my brother. I trust him, right? So what does he do? He sets me up with an investment account in addition to that IRA. He then sets me up with money market accounts. He then sets me up, because I'm just equally just hungry to diversify my portfolio and grow my money any way that I can, so I'm never broke but always have money on hand. He then gets me a SEP account, a simplified employment pension account for being an independent contractor. It's basically a 401k for an independent contractor, a SEP, IRA that is. And then all of this happens, right? Well, then I moved to California. Pandemic happens. The world shuts down. My income as 1099 plummets. I lose 95% of my income. My cost of living skyrocketed moving there from New Orleans. And so what happens now? Well, I have all this money. That's good. But now I go to my brother Brian and I say, hey, I need to access some of this because I got to pay my bills. I got to stay alive, right? So we start going through each of the accounts that I had put money into, and there's tax implications on every one of them. Even my Roth IRA, he tells me you can only take out up to your contribution amount. You haven't had it enforced for over 5 years, so you're going to potentially be taxed and potentially penalized on that, on any of the gains that you take out from that account. You can only take up to the country. And I'm like, so I'm realizing every bucket of money I have is taxable. And I'm thinking, well, how am I going to, I need money to live. So then I finally go to him, I say, what can I put my money into and not face taxation? Then at the very tail end, he says, oh, you need a life insurance retirement plan. Had I known that at the very beginning, I would have set that up as opposed to everything else. Not to say everything else is bad, because we need all that. We need a balanced, diversified portfolio. But at the same time, I wish I would have known what I know now back then. And now to this day, What am I funding aggressively? My IUL, because it's the only vehicle in my portfolio that I can grow money tax free. And to the point that Jody and Kimberly made, be able to take that money out. And I have taken money out during the pandemic. Eventually, I took money out. I borrowed against that IUL that I started funding very aggressively at $1,000 a month. And so, again, this knowledge is very powerful, guys. And I can't implore that upon you guys enough, that this is real time stuff, and these are real examples. So again, I just want to share that.
Appreciate it. That's a great example. Can't top a personal example. That's one of my favorite things. But also, as we're going into this, guys, I understand that every one of you got to make decisions based on what's best for you. And you know what? I mean, in a perfect world, a fully funded IUL, a fully funded IRA. I mean, all these are good things, right? It's just what's the best use of yours. And we're here to give you full information. Okay. So let's keep going forward on this conversation. Thank you very much, James. Let's go now as we continue on this conversation, right? So now, Gen Zs they need to begin saving money. They need to begin that habit. Okay. And they have great choices. Most of them don't have the opportunity for a 401k because most of the world doesn't qualify for a 401k anymore because they're independent doing that thing. If you have a 401k, contribute up to what they match in. That's a great thing. Free money is great money. So to use that. Now let's go into the millennials. The millennials and the Gen Xers, it becomes an easier conversation because it becomes more of an obvious answer because there the insurance need comes into play. Most of them are starting families. When you also know that you need life insurance and you need to put money away, then the IUL becomes, a slam dunk. It really is a conversation because it fits both those things. Also, it does become a personal pension plan. That is the nickname that they've used for insurance-based products for years because it does become your own retirement account. And then also at that point, things like making sure you got the proper coverage for your family because your health does become, Gen Z, they're not thinking a whole lot about their health. They're 30 years old and below. Once you start getting past that, well, then things start happening, and you're paying attention to that. So you also want to find a way to eliminate student debt. How do you get control of that, and those kind of things? Any comment on that one? The next two, Kimberly.
I think everything is a possibility for those two groups. But I think it's also a big conversation about making more money because they're all in their career, they're all grinding, they probably have kids and, expenses are triple and, things that they just have never thought about and their income only goes so far. So I think the opportunity and the ability to make more money is a huge conversation there. But everything else is I think that particular market is primed for everything that we offer.
If you're looking for the group to build your business on that can use the most of what we do, the straddling of the millennials and the Gen Xers are the absolute home run sweet spot. Does not mean that you don't go to all the others because the baby boomers and seniors a lot of times have more money. And that's a rollover conversation and all, but they're limited on some things we'll talk about in a minute. But those two could use all of ours. Let's go to the baby boomers. The baby boomers' biggest need that they have. And by the way, I do want to echo something. When we talk about them being in the business of making more money, at that point, it becomes a financial tool, not so much a business opportunity. We're not even really talking to them about, hey, you need to do this because we're trying to recruit them. It's that the first piece of building their financial house is what? I have to make more money, increase cash flow. In increasing cash flow, it is limited as to where that can happen in today's world. So got that going. So go to the baby boomers. Well, baby boomers, their biggest issue is that they're in wealth recovery and wealth acceleration. I actually fly through the BOP. We don't say those two phrases, but those are actually really good phrases. Matter of fact, this slide is so good, you can just take this slide and go talk to people about it. And they're standalone slides. But wealth recovery means the fact that what they have the lost decade. Most everyone that's a baby boomer has had something significant hit them to where it was a financial setback. whether it was their lack of planning, whether it was the fact that they had children that needed money and excess money, or whether they had a health issue, or maybe they had a bad investment with the market, the volatility of the market. And I don't want to get away from what Kimberly was saying about that Gen Z group, because you got to understand, if that market does negative 50, and that's the world we're in with great swings right now. You don't want to, you don't have, so baby boomers, they've had a divorce or two, and those have never helped them. And they also have their health becomes an issue. So they're limited by their health and their age as to where the life insurance conversations become what they need to be with them. And so they have issues of making sure they're insurability. They've got to find a way to replenish their coffers, if you will, in their financial plans. And they need to make sure that they have a will and a trust. Those are major, major issues. They become that Gen Xers to baby boomers. That's a big, big issue. And you need those things in advance. So make sure you have all those tools. And then with the senior market, it's longevity. It's the fact that getting them one is to get them covered so that they aren't in any kind of a GoFundMe situation in case their demise happens. But the other is to try to find a way that they can get into products to have their longevity of their money, protect their money, to create a legacy, and then also to be able to have that thing grown out. So those are the main things. Know that we're in that business. I think it's a great program today. By way of review, don't forget that this is Women's Empowerment Month. Go out and use that accordingly with your teams. Also, as you go out, make sure that you're also focused on the other things we talked about, which is financial literacy. Know the tools we have, and within the tools we have, you got in the back office, you got the great brochures that we've got, and then you also got that financial workbook. Now, if we get the next 48 hours that all of you have not gone and looked at those, then you're not going to remember it. So act on that immediately. And then we just went through all 5 of the markets and why what we do fits all 5 of those. So I think it's a great conversation today. I think it's concept driven. It's pretty simple. Thank you for being on. Look forward to seeing you all next week. If you're in Atlanta, get to the training tonight. If that is going to be, if we see that is going to be Zoomed, we'll get that out to you.
I think it's in person only.
It's in person only. Good. It is local.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Appreciate all.